There's something peculiar happening with ammo prices specifically, and the reason for what we're about to talk about all really revolves around primer production. And it's really the opposite of what you might think, because what we're seeing is last year, White River Energetics in Arkansas announced this massive expansion of primer production, just really kind of revolutionizing the primer industry by pumping out so many primers, as well as you have the new U.S. Army facility down in Texas that's pumping out ammo components as well. But despite all of this, despite all of it, we have companies like Winchester, which announced back in November that come January 1st, prices on all small arms ammo was increasing 5 to 10%. So we're just going to kind of take a look at what is going on with this, because what you have right now is there is an abundance of small arms ammo. Why? Primer production, massive increase in primer production, massive increase in gunpowder production, massive increase in all ammo production across the board, and a decrease in demand in most calibers. There's been a surge in a few calibers, and we'll talk about that in another video, but most calibers, you generally speaking, in 2024 had a decrease in demand on those calibers. But yet we also are seeing primer prices go up, which is really the reason why we're seeing ammo prices go up. So what's going on here? Well, it's definitely not supply. There's not a supply problem. There is not a supply problem. The only issues that there are is, number one, you got a raw material issue. Almost all of the raw material that goes into primer production is imported. Almost all of it. You know how, everything's more expensive, but I believe the reason everything is more expensive, because most things are mostly expensive for Americans and not necessarily for the rest of the world. And I believe the reason primer prices are increasing is because they know that we will pay it. They know we'll pay it. Production is up, demand is down, but yet we are still willing to pay whatever it is they ask us to pay for certain things like primers. And we've proven that to be the case over the last few years when it comes to ammo specifically. So I believe that what we're dealing with here is we're dealing with an industry where you have companies like Winchester saying, well, hey, we're bumping up ammo prices 5 to 10%. What are you going to do about it? And we just kind of look at them and go, I guess we'll just keep paying it, and then we have, ammo across the board going up in some places 5 to 10% across the board with all ammo in 2025 so far. We have primer costs going up in 2025. Demand is low, but yet prices are going up. And I believe the main two reasons for the price increase in primers and ammo across the board is, number one, we'll pay it. They know we'll pay it. We've proven this as Americans for decades. People used to be like, oh, you can't bump it up this much because people won't pay it. And we've shown that we will pay it. It's actually safe to bump it up a lot because as Americans, we'll pay it. I hate that about us because we do. We pay more for almost everything than almost everybody else in the world. And the reason we do is because we will. And I believe that that's at the heart of why we're seeing this increase in prices of ammo, small arms ammo, and in the prices of primers, secondary only to the raw material. But that's not, one might argue you're doing better with raw material now than you were in 2020. And I think most would agree that are dealing with raw material that it's really more abundant now than it was 4 years ago. So, I do understand everything's more expensive. It is. And even the raw materials is more expensive. And I understand that too. I just don't think we're hitting, as the raw material cost goes up, the primer cost is going up more. Let's put it that way, more than it would if you just applied the interest that raw materials going up versus how much you're going to increase production. You're paying more. You're paying more. So, and third, I'm going to throw this in at the end, that I believe we're also paying for the increase in production. And let me kind of explain that. When people are building new plants, hiring more people, getting more advanced technology, getting better equipment, we're paying for that too. So I believe that's also why, because Winchester, they run the Lake City ammo plant for the U.S. Army. So they're increasing, not just in Winchester, but through every bullet that's coming out of there as well. But all these facilities are more advanced than they were 4 years ago, and that's a ton of money going into that. So I believe the three big reasons why primers are going up is we'll pay it, number one. Raw material costs gone up a little. And as Americans, we're paying for the advancement in technology for their production and their new buildings and their new staff, that sort of thing. So that's why, why are primers going up? Well, there you go, mostly because we'll pay it. Any thoughts or insight on any of this? Love to know your insight if you have any. Put that below. I do want to take a moment and say that most people watch the channel, hey, they're not subscribers. Click that subscribe button. Greatly increases the algorithm and our ability to get these messages out. That link is also below. But the most important part of this channel is we take prayer requests. So please don't ever hesitate to send that in. Thank you for watching this episode of God, Family, and Guns. And as always, love God, love your family, love guns.